Cain's wife. Where did she come from, if only Adam's family existed? The Bible's most asked question. Genesis 4:17 drops a bombshell. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Wait, what? Cain had a wife? The Bible just told us Adam and Eve were the first humans. Their sons were Cain, Abel, and later Seth. Abel is dead. Seth comes later. So where did Cain find a wife? This question has stumped Sunday school teachers, fueled skeptic arguments, and sparked wild theories for centuries. The answer is simpler than you think, but it challenges modern sensibilities and reveals surprising details about early human history. What Genesis actually says. Let's review the biblical timeline. Genesis 1:2, God creates Adam and Eve, the first humans. Genesis 3, the fall and expulsion from Eden. Genesis 4:1-2, Eve gives birth to Cain, then Abel. Genesis 4:8, Cain murders Abel. Genesis 4:16-17, Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife. The question, where did this wife come from? The simple answer, his sister. The most straightforward biblical explanation, Cain married his sister. The evidence. Genesis 5:4 states, after Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Adam and Eve didn't stop at 3 sons. They had many children over Adam's 930-year lifespan. The text explicitly says sons and daughters, plural. Do the math. If Adam and Eve had children for even 100 years, conservative estimate, they could have had 30 to 50 plus children. Some Jewish traditions suggest Adam had 33 sons and 23 daughters. Cain married one of his sisters. It's the only logical conclusion if Adam and Eve were the first humans and source of all humanity. But isn't that incest? Modern readers recoil at this idea. Isn't marrying your sister forbidden and dangerous? Yes, now, but not then. Here's why. Genetic considerations. Perfect genetics initially. Adam and Eve were created genetically perfect. The genetic mutations that make incest dangerous today didn't exist yet. Gradual degradation. After the fall, genetic copying errors accumulated over generations. Each generation carried more mutations. Exponential problem. When close relatives reproduce today, recessive genetic defects from both parents can combine, causing severe problems. But early humans had minimal genetic defects. Scientific parallel. Population geneticists acknowledge that humanity faced genetic bottlenecks, Noah's flood being another example. Small populations must intermarry initially to grow. Biblical law came later. No law against it yet. God didn't prohibit sibling marriage until Moses, roughly 2,500 years after Adam. Leviticus 18:6-18 forbids marrying close relatives, but this law came after genetic degradation made it necessary. Abraham married his half-sister Sarah, Genesis 20:12, and this was before the Mosaic Law, so it wasn't sinful. The pattern. God's laws often address problems as they develop. Initially, sibling marriage was necessary. Later, it became dangerous and forbidden. Alternative theories and why they fail. Theory 1. Pre-Adamite humans. Some suggest God created other humans before or alongside Adam, and Cain married one of them. Problems. Genesis 3:20 calls Eve the mother of all living. Romans 5:12 says sin entered through one man, Adam, affecting all humanity. This contradicts the biblical narrative of united human origin. Acts 17:26 states, God made from one man every nation. Theory 2. Cain found his wife in Nod. Some claim Nod had existing populations. Problems. Genesis 4:17 says Cain built a city. He founded it, not moved to an existing one. The city was named after his son Enoch, suggesting new settlement. Who would populate Nod if not Adam's descendants? Theory 3, the gap theory. Some propose a gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, where pre-Adamite civilizations existed and fell. Problems: no biblical support for this gap, contradicts very good creation before the fall, unnecessarily complicates straightforward text. The simplest answer remains: Cain married his sister. The city Cain built. Genesis 4:17 says Cain built a city. Skeptics ask, why build a city for just a few people? Answers: long lifespans and fertility. Early humans lived incredibly long and likely had extended fertility. Adam lived 930 years. If Eve remained fertile for even 500 years, the population could explode exponentially. Population growth model. Generation 1, Adam and Eve. Generation 2, 20 to 50 children, conservative estimate. Generation 3, 400 to 2,500 grandchildren. Generation 4, 8,000 to 125,000 great-grandchildren. Within 200 years, thousands of people could exist, all descended from Adam and Eve, making sibling and cousin marriages necessary initially to grow. When did this stop? By Abraham's time, 2,500 years after Adam, genetic degradation had progressed enough that God began restricting close relative marriages. The Mosaic Law, Leviticus 18, formalized these restrictions roughly 2,500 years after creation. By this point, genetic mutations had accumulated. Populations were large enough for genetic diversity. Close relative reproduction became dangerous. God prohibited what was once necessary. What this teaches us: progressive revelation. God's laws address humanity's developing needs. What was necessary initially became harmful later. Trust Scripture's narrative. The Bible doesn't explain every detail, but it provides sufficient information. Cain's wife wasn't a biblical error or mystery. She was his sister, and that was exactly according to God's plan for populating the earth from one original couple.